Wonderful. Thank you so much, Cory Hardrict, for speaking to me. This movie was very emotional. I didn't expect that. So, what I wanted to know is you're not only just starring in it, you're also the executive producer. What was it about this movie that made you want to do the two tasks?
Well, first of all, I fell in love with the script and the filmmaker Eric Nazarian, who was very passionate about it. He grew up in this area, so it was near and dear to him. And I grew up on those '90s films that from LA, like The Boys in the Hood, Menace Society, that drew me into this project as well. And I saw how he wanted to capture this movie, and me being an upcoming producer as well and starting a film company, which is called Hardcore Films. They allowed me to be a producer on this as well, just to kind of take in the day-to-day activities and see how things run and seeing how we go out and help each other, you know, bring something special to light. So that's how that came about.
Right. So the thing with Solo is, we get some of the backstory as told through the main character. Well, we do know that he's associated with his father. It's more of a relationship, a friendship with the father, and he becomes a mentor to this kid. But I was wondering, is he doing this out of the friendship that he had with his father, or is there something deeper that he sees within this boy?
I think his father, like I said, when he was in prison, his father wanted him to get out and look out for his son. But I think it goes deeper than that. I think, you know, how can you really trust someone in prison, with like that life advice
Mhm.
that you're gonna get out and do the right thing by his boy. So I think he wanted to find his power and control when he got out and made it about himself, which is a lot of street guys do. It's all about self. So he was kind of misguiding information to his son that he was going out here, trying to become a man. You know what I'm saying? Trying to prove himself
Right.
for Solo when Solo really never cared for him. It was more about
Mm,
Solo. So I would say, the misguided information that Freddy was given through Solo is not the way to go, and that's not the route to go. And he didn't, like I said, he didn't think about his well-being as a young man, trying to, get ahead in life. He was steering him down the wrong path until that came to an end. So that's usually what
right.
happens when you're dealing in that street life. It's either death
Right.
or jail, right? So yeah, that's what Solo was about too. He was just a painful hurt man who was trying to make sure other people was hurting through his pain. I see
Mm.
that.
Now, do you feel as an actor, do you do a backstory before that to be in that mentality? Because the script also does show, there's another character that is trying to be reformed, but fate catches up. However, it catches up.
Yes, I do a lot of, like, I watch a lot of LA films, like in the '90s. I watched some films, Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, South Central, those LA cult classic films. And then I do research on my own. I start watching like YouTube, looking up gang culture in Los Angeles, West LA, about the black and brown culture as well, the Spanish gangs, everything. And then I know my upbringing in Chicago. All cities and inner cities are similar. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind
Hmm.
of like, I want to bring some of my authenticity and instincts to the character as well, and I put it all together. And then I got on set, and I just I just had fun and just locked in and had a good time portraying this character.
Can you talk about the physical, like kind of there's a transformation within how it looks. You have the twists in your hair. Your face, I feel, changes into more of like that menacing hard, no matter wherever he may be. This is a don't mess with this character. Can you talk about those changes as an actor?
Wow. I just know when the camera's rolling, I just immerse myself in the character. I don't really know what I'm doing. I just have to live it, and anything goes. There's nothing off limits for me. Because I'm not Corey anymore. I'm Solo.
Hmm.
It's like I transform. You know what I'm saying? If that makes any sense. I transform
Yes.
and I try to experience anything this guy is thinking. Like, I'm not me no more. It's like an out of body experience. Anything this character's thinking, I do it. You know, as far as like physically, emotionally, his spirit, I just do it. And then when it's over, I try to snap out of it. So that's how I That's how I get into character a lot, into most of my characters for that part.
Was there a certain moment where you were looking for the character and you realized this is it?
There was a moment when we were walking. Remember the tunnel scene? The kids were fighting. The
Yeah.
initiation scene, and we walked through this tunnel, and I had to grab them like, "Good job!" It felt real. That moment right there felt like a spiritual moment where I knew who this guy was. He was a
Hmm.
leader. He was trying to get respect. He had the respect from his peers, from people, and they look up to him and they followed him. So whatever he did, they followed, whether that was right or wrong. But that turning point of the movie felt like Solo knew who he was all the way.
I, I wanted to talk about that because, you do say, or you give the advice saying, our neighborhood, and it's always repeated, our neighborhood, I'm doing this for our neighborhood. When do you feel that Solo became from an hour to an I?
The alley scene, when he
Mm,
turned on him, about not wanting to actually go out there and do these things no more. Like he was kind of like he was being hesitant, and I grabbed him by his throat, and I told him
mhm.
there's two people he listened to. It was me and God. Like I felt like that was the moment right there where I felt like, oh man, he knows that Solo is all for Solo. That was the turning point of everything, I feel, to me, because you could really see behind his true colors and his intentions from that point on in
Do
his
you
life.
still, mhm. Do you still view him as a mentor, or was he just never a mentor to begin with?
Yeah, I think it started out that way, that he promised his dad that he would do that, and then it just didn't. He was all for self, looked out for himself, and he wanted to, like I say, he wanted to misguide a young man and deter him. I don't know if it's something that maybe it was a relationship he had with his dad, and something that went bad or something, but I just felt like it was all about leading him to destruction instead of to the light. He wanted to lead
Mhm.
this young kid to destruction, and you get a lot of people like that in the inner city. They say they love you and they're here for you, but it's really to see you destroy yourself. And as young men, you have to understand that everyone don't love you and care for you in these streets. You got to listen to your family or at home, your mom. Get a good support system around you that can kind of weed out those type of solos in this world. Need more of that.
Now there is a moment where he does say, make it right with your mother, no matter what. So there was, but their interaction with the actual mother is much different than that little monologue that he was saying.
Right.
Can you talk about the differences between the two, and why do you feel that the words doesn't match the action?
Yeah, because that's what they are. It was like deceiving, that's what
Hmm.
they all do. They try to, he tries to get in with him like he's on his side, but at the end of the day, he's all about himself, and I think
Hmm.
it's a way of getting him closer, pulling him in, and then pulling back. You know what I'm saying? So the mother thing was
Hmm.
more of like a trick of the enemy. That's what the enemy do. They come to deceive, trick you, steal, kill, destroy. That's the power of the enemy. So it may seem good and it may sound good and look good, but it's not good. It's like it's not
Right,
good for you at all. And yeah, Solo, like I say, he was just for himself for the most part.
right. Now this also is about the neighborhood is gentrifying, and so
Yes.
I was wondering for Solo and how he looks at the world now. Is it more of not of necessarily a hatred, but a discontent as to what it was previously?
Yeah, well, I can say when he got out of prison, things have changed around him, but it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
it's remained the same. He has to live in an environment where he can't work. He's not accepted no more. When you get incarcerated and you come home, it's just like, and that's on
Mm-hmm.
your record. What can you really, really do outside of go back to the same community that got you in there? So that's why a lot of men who come out of prison usually go back, because you're surrounded by that same environment. You know what I'm saying? That led you to destruction in that path. And I think that's what Solo, that's all he knows. That's all he knows
Mhm.
is that path, you know, and it led him to, as you see, like when you watch the movie, you see where it's going to lead him to, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and that just comes from, you know, he's dealing with a lot of regret and pain. When you're dealing with a lot of regret and pain, you're more destructive because you don't see a happy ending in your life. You don't see the
Mhm.
positive in your life. You know, even though people can say, you know, you can be positive, the reality is you go out your door being an ex-con, ex-felon, you know, gang member, there's not a lot of positivities in your life. So it's just like you gotta go back and backtrack and say, I gotta do something to not allow me to get in this position in the first place. Because it's just like that split second in your life, decisions you make can change the next 30 years of your life, 30, 40 years.
Do you feel that he wants to die?
Yeah, I think there's messaging in the title, you know. He
Mhm.
wanted to go out on his own terms, and he knew that's what it was leading him to that. That's why he lived the way he lived, you know. He lived with no care of the repercussions, you know. Um, like having Freddy go out and do certain things and report back to him. That's only going to catch up to you with your karma. And eventually he knew that was going to happen. He just kind of knew it. And I think he was ready to die like a man. I think he was. He was.
So then, with that, what was interesting is that there's so many different concepts of what he defines as a man, with no crying, always stand up, whatever it is, don't fall on your knees, whatever it is, you stand tall. About that, I was wondering, what do you feel that he believes in, that he takes in as number one, that defines both himself and with Freddie?
um I think he feels a sense of, of course he has that power over Freddie, but he also feels like one day Freddie may wake up, you know? Like he feels that he sees a power in Freddie that he's actually fearful of him as well. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So he's gonna try to have that control over him until it runs out, as you can see. But like I say, I think it comes a lot of Solo's life comes a lot from just the pain. And I would say go back to this word regret of everything that he's done in his life to get him to that point where he feels like he's just like a walking dead man. Like he's alive, but he's dead. If that makes any sense. So he doesn't
Hmm.
mind bringing Freddy into his realm of walking the destructive path that he walked, when he
Right.
knows his life is over. So let me bring somebody else with me, and so that's why I can see with him drawing in Freddie in that way. Um, but at the end of the day, it's all lack of love, and Freddie had it with his mom, he has it at home, and it's just like he was trying to find it in the wrong places. So there is a message in this film as well
Hmm.
of, who do you
Right.
get that fatherly figure advice from? Is it the street guy? Is it family? Is it, close friends? Because that's very important on how your life's going to be.
Did you ever look at him as someone who can be redeemed, or is he completely irredeemable?
Solo,
Yes, Solo.
um, I think he's completely irredeemable.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. And in that way is because he's lived too much. He's done too much.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's doing is he didn't learn from incarceration. Sometimes when people get out, they're rehabilitated. He didn't. There is no rehabilitation because of the things he's doing that got him in there. So you can only play with fire for so long before you really get burned or you're out of here. So it's just like he
Right.
didn't learn from his mistakes at all because he's continued to repeat the cycle. So
Do you feel? Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was wondering. Does he feel that there's a slight jealousy towards Thumper because he identifies himself as rehabilitated.
You say it's towards Thumper.
Yes.
Yeah, because he feels like that's what he wish he had. Like he wish that he can go like and be a real man and turn your life around. You know what I'm saying? So there was a jealousy in him. You know, there was a jealousy to see that. You know, that's why he envied that, you know, with Thumper and, you know, as far as like having to do what he had to do, you know. So that all comes like self, like his looking in the mirror, he couldn't look in the mirror at himself. So when you can't do that, you have to bring down everyone else in your path. Like it's kind of like you're taking everyone else down with you because you won't get
Mhm.
your life together.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for speaking to me. I love this movie, and there are many messages
Yeah.
within this. So thank you.
People see it April 25th. Die Like a Man, Apple
Yes.
TV. Looking forward to people watching it. So